Hello, everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets&Quants. Welcome to our Fireside chat. We're going to explore undergraduate business education with Frederic Brunel, the Associate Dean of Boston University's Questrom School of Business. Welcome, Frederic.
Welcome, John. Pleasure to be with you today.
Now, there are certain cities in the world where I can't imagine a better place to be an undergraduate student, and Boston is certainly one of them. What makes Boston so attractive?
Well, Boston, as you mentioned it, is the ultimate university city in the US. I don't know if you've seen this recent ranking that just came out last week, but Boston has been ranked number one in the US for university cities, number nine in the world. And being in Boston is really an incredible opportunity and setting to study business education. Boston, as you know it, John, is really a place where we have so many institutions of higher education. So it is really the clustering of students and intellectual pursuits and opportunities around the cities are immense. But it's also a place of great innovation. Great innovation in tech, in biotech, in pharma, in medical delivery, and digital. And so for our students, it is a living lab around them where they can really interact on a daily or weekly basis with these companies. Our campus is in the city. It is a short subway ride away from either banks downtown or startups on the Cambridge side of the river. And over their time with us, our students really take full advantage of this location. Our faculty takes advantage of it by bringing speakers to the classes, by engaging in action learning with the students. Our students can intern with these organizations. They can do job shadow program. And many of them end up joining these incredible companies. This is the place where we're actually saving the world right now in Boston. I'm thinking about the company across the river called Moderna. And you may have a bit of Moderna in your arm right now, or some of us do.
I
And
have two
this is
shots of
Boston.
Moderna right here.
Exactly. So this is this is the context. But Boston is also more than that. Boston is a beautiful place, an extremely livable place, a place of so many cultural institutions which are world class, and I'm told a few sports teams as well.
One at Fenway Park, in fact, one of the great grand stadiums of baseball in the world.
Pretty much just across the street from the business school.
That's
From
right.
some of the windows of the business school, you see Fenway Park.
Now, Frederick, let's explore the basics of the program. How long it is, how many people you bring in, what they study.
Sure. Um, we are a four-year business program. We admit students as freshmen, but we also admit students as external transfers. So some students join us as sophomore, for instance, having spent a year elsewhere. We also admit students from elsewhere in the university. So we have a very flexible policy at Boston University called 1BU that supports students, quote unquote, changing their mind and starting in one part of the university and deciding after a couple semesters, you know what? Actually, I've sampled maybe a Questrom class and I realized this is really what's for me. And we are a major net importer of students from other walks around the university. So to give you an idea of size, in a normal year, we would start with about 400 freshmen admits, but by the time the class graduates, we have about 800 graduating. So we double the class through these transfers and students coming from elsewhere.
And for the parents watching, I want to point out the advantages of a four-year program. In fact, when you apply to the school and you know you want to major in business, you're immediately in. You don't have to re-qualify for an admission later on, as some programs are. And that's a big advantage for people who already know they want to major in business.
That's very much true, John. The other part I think that's also important is that not only do we admit you for a 4-year program, but we put you through a 4-year program. So you are admitted right away, and right away you start to engage with the business curriculum in your first semester and your first year, and we start to onboard you and equip you, with the idea that we want to grow you and educate you over 4 years, use the full runway. And for instance, one of the activities that's so central to that is from day one, you start, for instance, career exploration. You start to think about what is it that I want to do, what concentration maybe I want to pursue, what specialization. And so it provides us with an incredible amount of time, opportunity to explore, to reflect, to refocus, to pivot, and to really get market ready by the time of graduation, or before graduation, I should say.
Right. Now, what are the elements of the program that make it special, make it unusual, or even unique?
Typically my answer to that type of question, John, when I get asked this question, I say it's 3 things, and it's Questrom, and it's Boston U, and it's Boston. So I already covered the Boston part with you, so I'm going to just talk about the other 2. We are a premier business school. We have an extremely high quality student body. Our applicants and our admits are very strong. On average, this past year, the average admit at about a 3.8 GPA, to give you an idea. So this is really solid, an extremely high quality peer group from the student. And
right.
That is something important. I think it's something that parent and students should realize that, I like to tell people, this is one of the most important metric out there is the quality of the peer group when you join a school. And one of the key indicators that people don't often think about looking at is the admission rate or the selectivity of the school. And so when I speak to friends or acquaintances or people around, I say, you know what, make sure you don't send your child to a school where everybody gets in.
Right.
And because that selectivity, while sometimes daunting, because the odds are, lower than 50% and quite lower than 50% in our case, 15%, it is really a fantastic signal if you make it through, because you're going to join a high quality community of students that are going to be your friend, your peers, your teammates, and you're going to grow together and you're going to grow through each other. So that's one aspect of Questrom.
That's
Another
a really
aspect
good
of
point.
Questrom, yeah, thank you. Another aspect is the quality of the faculty. We have reinvented our faculty in the last 5 to 10 years. We have hired an enormous amount of new colleagues, 60 plus hires in the last few years. And what has happened is that if you look at the impact that our faculty has on the world, as measured by research productivity and research ranking and how they impact and inform the big problems of the world, we have gone up 54% in our research ranking in the last 6 years alone. We are now 31 in the US in terms of research ranking. So that's also this other aspect, the quality of the student, the quality of the faculty, and obviously then I would say the culture of the school, the culture of the place, a place where the staff cares deeply and is deeply committed to the educational experience of the students. Same for the faculty. A place where we really put student first and do it and mean it. I am constantly in meetings or working groups, and we spent a lot of time thinking about our operations, about our program, through the eyes of the student and trying to understand what is this doing. So we have very much I'm not going to use the word customer-centric because I don't think that's always accurate, but a user-centric, or student-centric perspective to everything we do. And our culture around Questrom is a culture of inclusion, of openness, of innovation, and everything that we do every day. The other aspect I was going to mention is Boston University. We are a large urban university with 19 schools and colleges. And what does this mean? This means that our students have opportunity to engage up and down Commonwealth Avenue. We are located pretty much along a long stretch, which is called Commonwealth Avenue, with students from all different walks of life, faculty from different walks of life. They can take courses all around campus, and they are exposed to performance art. They are exposed to scholars and talks and everything else that this great university allow them to do. On top of it, BU has in place something called One BU. And really this is to ensure that student can easily move between one college and another, can take class across colleges. If they change their mind about a major, they can easily move around to another part of campus. And we have also reconceived school-wide, university-wide, I should say, what we mean by general education. So that's something also I would be happy to talk to you about if you want to.
So what percentage of courses does a business major take outside the business school? And in terms of the business school courses, how much is the core and how much are the electives?
So I heard the question, and I'm going to try to avoid answering it, and I'm going to tell you why. And then I can answer it if you still want me to.
Sure.
Because we have shifted our thinking away from courses, outside and inside. So I just mentioned the Boston University Hub, which is our general education program that was launched a few years ago. This was a really big effort at the university level to try to reimagine what we mean by general education. In most places, what general education is a set of classes you take as a freshman, maybe a couple more as a sophomore, and then you're done and you move on. Well, at Boston University, we have decided that's not the way we want to think about general education. General education is something that you should do early, often, and always. And therefore, we view general education as something that takes place over 4 years. Not just something you do as a freshman. And it's something that you do inside and outside your major. So we are also shifting the way we think about where classes are being taught. So in many ways, we are becoming more college agnostic and course agnostic. Instead, what we are focusing on are 27 units of basic capabilities and habits of minds that we want every student at Boston University to have by the time they graduate. And they earn these 27 units by taking courses, obviously, and some courses may give 1 or 2 or potentially even 3 of these credits. So, and they take them in and out of the major. Right now, we have over 1,200 courses at Boston University that have some type of general education unit attached to them. And so this is why I was hesitating by giving you a straight answer to your question. And I went into this long answer because I think that's so fundamental. The shift away from just take these 7 classes and call it your gen ed. Instead, we are able to let students be a lot more in the driver's seat and to really find what really works for them based on their interests. And in some ways, we don't really care where they get a unit in scientific inquiry, because there is an entire menu of courses that they can learn scientific inquiry. There's an entire menu of courses where potentially they can do teaming or whatever else is the capacity that we want them to develop.
Yeah, I think it's reassuring for parents to consider a business education at this young age almost premature, and want their children to have a broader and deeper sense of all the subjects and the important things in one's life. And that sort of policy allows for that, clearly.
Yes, but also allows you to fulfill some of these requirements in business classes, because business classes are not devoid of scientific inquiry or teaming, if I go back to these 2 examples. So this is really understanding that you don't need to go to the College of Art and Science to do gen ed. You can do gen ed in many other different schools around campus.
Right. Now, the career outcomes of your students are quite varied. Give us an idea of what students do when they graduate with the business degree.
Oh my God, John, where do I start? um, well, maybe I'll start first with the good news, is that the career outcomes are very good. They are very good and they're very strong, and they have a big range. And they start not just with the final job, but they start also with internships. I think this is also part of the outcome. And the average Questrom student does almost 3 internships during their time with us, 2.9 on average.
Wow.
So which this is because again, it's a 4-year program. You can do internships at different points in time, sometime during the summer, sometime during the school year, by just taking the subway to a company for a day or 2 a week. So there's so many opportunities, and this is why we can weave this professional development experiences with what they do with us in the classroom. Now, with respect to full-time employment, it ranges. It ranges from the 6-figure investment banking type job with a large bank to somebody being, I just saw this week, who's not going to run an art gallery in New York, to students joining mission-driven not-for-profits. So we have a full range of styles of jobs and specialization across all different types of industries.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think a lot of people assume that if you go to business school, you've got to be a consultant, a banker, or work for a tech company or something. And in fact, that's not true.
That is so not true. The range of industries and the range of roles that our students are undertaking is immense. And I would invite people to go to our website, and we provide statistics, and they are too long for me to discuss it in this forum. But they can quickly see the range of opportunities. This week we have a job fair coming on Friday, and we have 52 different companies coming just for that event on that day, this Friday, and they come from all different walks of life and industries, and we have some of our students go to grad school also after that, but that percentage is low. They tend to not go to grad school right after they finish Questrom, and that is because they get jobs. Yes. They don't need to go to grad school right after Questrom. They can actually get full-time employment, and some of them then go back to grad school, 5 years later, and they can do an MBA or something like this. So that's really the range of opportunities for our students. And some of them start businesses. Let's not forget that. We do have a rich infrastructure and ecosystem on campus and around Boston. We have something called Innovate BU, which is a space for makers and doers and starters. And it's really, the business school is a big part of that space. And a group of our students have the startup bug, and they either start a business themselves or they join a startup team. And so every year there's a group of them that go this route as well.
That's great. I think obviously one of the reasons why a business major is the most popular major in America is because parents often apply some guidance, let's put it that way, because with tuition being quite a considerable expense, they want to make sure that their children get jobs when they graduate from college.
That is true. I mean, there is an ROI computation to business education, no doubt. But I think there is another aspect also, that the return to the business education is, yes, you get a job and you get a good income, but also business is where a lot of the solutions to the pressing world problem is going to come from.
True.
Climate change, inclusion, diversity, making sure that the economy works for every citizen around us. Businesses have an incredible part to solve this problem. And when students join business career and join a business school, they are in fact joining the opportunity to work on these big problems.
And that's the real value of an undergraduate business education, isn't it? The opportunity to actually participate in positive change, no matter what you do or where you are.
Yes, business as a force for good and a force for growth are very important consideration and an everyday lived reality of what we do at Questrom and what students can do once they leave us.
And let's face it, no matter what you do with your life, there's an element or more of it to business. Whether it's, how do people get paid? How do people get managed? How do they work and collaborate together effectively? How do you lead others? It's just on and on. No matter what you end up doing, an undergraduate business education addresses all of those questions.
Yes, and what's interesting is that this is also why the rest of the university is looking at us more and more to participate and infusing those skills to the rest of campus. Because as a business school, we have been really at the forefront of collaboration, communication, career management, leadership. And these are themes that are so important to us and that we have invested a lot of time, talent, and infrastructure. And, for a while, this was really the business school doing this. But now across campus, engineers or other parts are realizing we also need those skills to complement what we do with our students. So we are very central to the conversation.
Now, we've heard about helicopter parents. I'm sure you're very well aware of helicopter parents.
I've never met one.
Parents clearly play a role in offering guidance during the admissions process and helping to steer their kids to, right careers and the right schools. What do you think is the appropriate role of a parent in helping their children through this transition?
Well, I'm not sure if parents are going to like my answer. But my answer is going to be drive your kids around, take them to visit campuses, but then kind of stay out of the way. Trust your students and, empower them to make the decision that's right for them. Mm-hmm. Realize that sometimes your student may not be able to articulate the why very well. Why do they want to attend BU? They may give you maybe not always the most satisfactory answer. But at the end of the day, your student probably knows what is right for he or she, for him or her. This is really, I think, should be a student-driven. Realize that as a parent, you are not going to attend the school. Your student will. And so listen, answer their questions, ask some questions, but at the end, trust them.
Very good advice. Now, what advice do you have for students who are looking at that 15% admit rate and worried about whether or not they can get in?
It's still time to buttress your case. Mm-hmm. The clock is ticking, but depending where you are in the cycle, you may still have opportunities to really build up your profile, but also try it out. Remember, the numbers I gave you is an average. So right. For every student that is, 3.8, 50% probably have lower than 3.8. Mm-hmm. So we look at the full student experience. So don't let that scare you. And I would say the advice is join a place that feels right for you. Join a place where you have choices. And so join a place where indeed you have a lot of career opportunities. At Questrom, we have 15 concentrations that students can select from. So look at a place that has a lot of concentration or majors, whatever it's called. And in a place like us at Questrom, also join the school knowing that maybe there is still a little bit of uncertainty. Mm-hmm. Maybe you are only 80% sure you want to be a business student. And maybe that's as high as it can get at this point. Well, go with it because that's the best information you have, but join the school where maybe you'll be able to pivot. If after one semester or 2 semesters, you have done some exploration and some discovery, and you are able to, and you want to change your mind either by staying in the business school and say, oh, I wanted to do finance, now I want to do marketing, fine. Or maybe I'm in the business school, but really I want to be a math teacher, fine as well. So buy yourself some option value by joining an institution that allows you to pivot and reorient as you get more information and as you move through the program.
And this gets back to one of your earlier points about the three things that make the program unique. And BU is one of them, given all the departments and colleges.
Exactly.
To give you plenty of options in case you need them. And then in the business school with all your specialties, you mentioned a few, that are obvious, finance and marketing. What are less obvious specializations in the business undergraduate school?
So I'm going to start with the least obvious. We have what's called an independent concentration. This is something I helped co-create 2 years ago, which is actually a concentration where students get to design their own concentration. It's often used by students who have interest at the intersection of two fields. So an example, maybe I have a student who's interested in operations, but is also interested in retail. And maybe they can do a concentration by blending our retail type offerings with supply chain type thing, and they package it together. Another concentration that's newer to us, that was launched a year plus ago, is a concentration in business analytics. So we were offering a lot of business analytics classes for quite a few years, but they had not been federated into a separate concentration. We now have that concentration fully in place and organized with elective requirement, and it's the fastest growing concentration in the school history ever.
Wow,
so that's
a very hot field.
It's a very hot field.
Are struggling with massive data sets and harnessing them for decision making.
Exactly. Another one that's not obvious, that actually right now is still on the drawing block and it's about to be launched, is a concentration in fintech. So these are novel, but we also have concentration in life science, in real estate, in information systems, and management and organization, and strategy, and entrepreneurship and innovation. And I know I'm forgetting some, and I apologize to the colleagues that I'm not mentioning right now, but we have 15 of them.
But the key point here is all the options that you are able to sample and select at Questrom, which is a terrific opportunity for a lot of people.
It makes it such a vibrant place. And for each of these concentration, we have learning communities where the like-minded student, join together with clubs and faculty advisors and alumni relations, and they have tons of different activities. And so this is really something that is not just a series of courses on your transcript, but it's a lived experience for the good part of 2 to 3 years.
So Frederic, for my last question, let me ask you something that I love to do when I visit a campus. I love to go to a bar and sit down with a bunch of students and ask them, okay, what are the 3 things that most resonated with you that you'll remember about the program and your college experience long after you graduate? What would your students tell me, Frederic?
So I will have to think a little bit about this, and I'm going to try to channel the students. But I think all the students, because that I've seen the data, the thing that our students talk the most about is their junior core experience. At Questrom, we have a very unique sequence where students for 1 semester get to take 4 integrated courses as a one group, and they work on a startup project idea that is driven and supported by the 4 disciplines together. So it's it's probably the most intense semester that they do. It's team delivered, team learned, team taught, and students have to really immerse themselves, and they are together with the same group of students every single day for the duration. And that is really something that stays with them. And 10 years later, they'll come back and say, you remember you had me, I had you in my core section, and we did this project, and they remember which project they came up with. And so it's extremely salient. It's a really part of our culture.
Right.
I think another part would be, I'm going to switch to something much more softer side of thing. I think a lot of them recall with and still participate in a very rich network of friends, lifelong friends from all around the world. We are a very international campus. We are ranked in the top 10 most international campuses in the US. And our students are extremely diverse and form extremely deep, long-lasting, meaningful relationship with students from all 50 states and about 100 other countries in the world. So I think this is this network of friends that you go to their weddings down the road, and you stay in contact with them for a very long time. So I think that's also something that students would often talk about. I'll tell you something they talk about maybe, but not always in the most fun fashion, maybe the Boston winters.
Oh, right. Well,
but but regarding the program, though, to be I think more serious about as opposed to be joking, I think the third thing they would talk about is the commitment of the people they encountered, the commitment of the staff in wanting to see them succeed, the commitment on the faculty who treat them not just as a student in a room, but as a full person, and really will remember the school as a place where they became a better version of themselves. By the time they leave us, they have been able to engage in learning activities and growth opportunities, and have really grown as young adults. And so this ability to grow, develop, and really become the best you can be is something that I think is also very salient for a lot of them.
That sounds like that hits the button. Really does.
We work at it every day.
Well, Frederic, what a joy to speak with you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think everyone learned an awful lot about undergraduate business education at Questrom and what it's like to go to school in Boston, one of the great cities of the world. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, John. I look forward to seeing you on campus. I know you're coming very soon.
Indeed I am, and I can't wait to get there. All right, everyone.
Until we meet again.
Absolutely. Hope you enjoyed our Fireside chat with Frederic Brunel, the Associate Dean of the Undergraduate Program at the Boston University School of Business. Pay him a visit. Go to Boston. It's a great town. Check out the school, talk to students, reach out to alumni. I think that's the way to do a really good research job at any school and any program. And I think you'll learn a lot there too. All right. Thanks for joining us.